Okay, we're down to our last variation, and that's called rhythm displacement. So I'm going to start with bar 1 because that's a very simple rhythm of 4 quarter notes. Maybe that'll help us kind of figure out how this thing works. Okay, I click on it, and it's eliminated the last quarter note, right? So off, on. It's also changed the pitch from, so the last F gets cut out. And the E moves up to an F. Let's move over to bar 2 and try it. Same setting. Wait a minute. Gotta make sure we have the same setting. So our setting is left displacement, range, quarter. Let's do quarter. Okay. Now let's do 16th. Let's do 16th. So left, range. In fact, let's do left note 16th. So what's the change? Now we can, this is, we can definitely see the rhythm displacement here. It's displaced the F on B2 by a 16th note. And it's done it to the left. It's done it to the left. See, it shortens it. Left meaning shortens it. So the F is displaced. It's shortened by a 16th note. Okay? And if we hit 8th, this quarter note maybe will be shortened by an 8th note. Let's see if that's what happened. Yeah, that's, wait a minute, 8th. I think that's what it did. Quarter. Yeah. Okay, so it shortens that one F and on beat 2. It shortens it by an 8th note, or if we choose 16th, by 16th. So 8th, 16th. And then what happens with quarter? And with quarter, it's already a quarter note, right? So how is it going to eliminate it? Let's see. Quarter. Yeah, it just eliminates it. Oh, wait a minute. It's like, I think it eliminates it, and then it makes the next note longer. Not sure about that. But we can definitely see when we set it to 16th, we can definitely see what it's doing there. It's shortening the F by a 16th note. Okay, let's go to try to replicate that. So we got left note 16th. Looking in measure 2 now. Yeah. So now it's shortening the first note, the first E, which is an 8th note. It's shortening it, and then it's lengthening the next 2 notes so that there are no rests in between. I think that's important, that this rhythm displacement, it's doing it in a way that it shortens one note and lengthens the other, so there are no rests. Okay. Okay. Now what if we do eighth? Looks like with the eighth, if it shortens the second E on beat 1, in other words, the E on the and of beat 1, if you shorten that by an eighth, you eliminate it. Okay, so if you eliminate that note, then the F on beat 2 is going to have to be lengthened to avoid the dead space, the rest. I think that's what's happening. Yeah. I think that's exactly what's happening. So, in other words, in the rhythm displacement, if the length is set to the same amount as the note you're displacing, it's going to like eliminate it, because that's what it did over here in the first measure. Okay, so let's try the same setting over here. And here we have on measure bar 3, we start out with 2/8 notes. We've got the same rhythm. So if we look at bar 2, we start out with bar 2 has got all 8 notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and in the first 3 bars. In bar 3 we have 1 and 2 and, but then we have a quarter note. So the rhythm for the first 2 beats in bars 2 and 3 are the same. So we should get the same result, right? We may not, because of we have lead-in notes. Well, that should only apply to beat 4. So yeah, we should get the same. Let's try it. Rhythm displacement. So we got left note 16th. Nothing happens. That's strange. 8th. Oh, wait a minute. We've got connecting notes going on here. No, that's not making any difference. So rhythm displacement. I don't see anything being displaced when we apply the same setting that we have in bar 2 to bar 3. I don't see any change. So bar 2, we've got left note 16th. When you see it highlight in blue, that means that's what the setting is, right? Okay. So left note 16th. We go here, left note 16th. Turn it on. We get nothing. I don't know. It works here, but in bar 3, I don't see it doing anything. Now if we hit right, it works. And bright, it's lengthening beat 2 by a 16th note. That's what it's doing. Let's hear that. I don't like that. It's too halting. By the way, let's take it off here. It doesn't work there. Somehow I messed up bar 2. See if I can go back. Is that it? Yeah, I think that's where we were. Okay. All right. Let's turn it off. Rhythm displacement, bar 3. Turn it on. Don't like that. So it's lengthening the second beat and shortening. Yeah, that doesn't work. Let's try an 8th note. No. Quarter note. No, I don't like that. Okay, so the rhythm displacement is not working well in bar 3. In bar 2, we want to keep that simple, but let's go back and see if we can. Okay, so it's easy to see what's happening here because the second beat is being shortened by a 16th note. Now it's being shortened by an 8th. There's the quarter. Let's do the 8th. Now what happens if we hit the range? So an 8th. Okay, what's happening with the range is we're shortening all the 3 notes by an 8th note. We end up with a rest. So the beat, the second beat, the third beat, and the fourth beat are just being truncated they're shifted over by an eighth note. That's the best way of putting it. So they're, now notice that the length of the two last quarter notes on beats 3 and 4, the length isn't changing. The pitch isn't changing. Only the length of the second beat changes by an eighth, and then the other two shift over. Interesting. Let's hear that. So it's kind of like, it reminds me of someone who's got a gimpy leg. It's like you get that feeling of imbalance because the notes are out of balance. The rhythm is like tipping. So that could, it doesn't work there, but that could work really nicely. Especially if you repeat that rhythm. I mean, if you just do it once, it's not going to be enough to kind of solidify the feel. But if you were repeating that rhythm across a few bars, that could be really nice. Yeah, that rhythm, this rhythm displacement is very interesting. Really opens up some nice possibilities. I'm thinking of a lot of Baroque music. That's a very powerful technique in Baroque music. Especially they'll apply this type of thing to a lot of Baroque music. Well, I'm thinking of the music of Jean-Pierre Rameau. And by the way, if you've never listened to his music, I highly recommend it. I think he's, without doubt, the most underrated composer ever. He's right up there with, with Bach and Beethoven. But his style, he wrote a lot of music for these Parisian kind of they were kind of a combination of operas and ballets, but because they were ballet was an important, dance was an important element of this form, a lot of his music is based on dance, and the dances are based on kind of these courtly dances, which were, you might have seen them in movies, like Jane Austen films. Jane Austen often has these scenes where you have the people, at a house having these. They're kind of like square dances, except they're in a line. They're very, very beautiful. In any event, there's a lot of displacement in that. Here's what I'm trying to get at. The composer takes a well-known dance rhythm that has a clear feel, often in some type of triple feel, and he'll displace the melody so that you get this kind of very interesting halting feel with a very strong sense of where the downbeat should fall. All right. Okay. Well, sorry for that diversion there, but couldn't resist it. Yeah, I like that. I don't want it here because in the beginning of our melody, we don't want that we want it to be almost we want it to be a little bit boring, but that definitely works. So let's see if we do right. Let's go back to the 16th. Now what happened there? Oh, here's the note. So if we select range, yeah, this rhythm displacement, let me stop this. This is a head scratcher. I went through this before, and it's really hard for me to figure out what this thing is doing. I mean, I see here the 16th note. That's pretty simple, right? I mean, that change is pretty easy to see. It's actually lengthening. Yeah, that just lengthens the initial note E by a 16th note. And it does it to the right. Now if we hit to the left, now it's lengthening. It's going from left to right, whereas with the right, it's moving right. So the change in the length of the note, or the rhythm displacement, is moving to the right. And if we hit left, that's with it off, that's on. Well, that's moving to the right. Well, it depends how you look at it, right? If you look at it from the point of view of the third beat, that's moving left. But if you look at it from the point of the second beat's moving to the right. So go figure. So that's with it on. That's on. So now the rhythm displacement is to the right, and the E is moved to the right by an eighth note. I get that. Okay, that makes sense. The E's moved to the right. Then if we hit range, and we get like 2 notes are moving to the right. And that kind of makes sense. But if we do left, now here's where it gets, I don't get it. So if we go left by a 16th, we end up with a eighth note rest. Yeah, I don't see that. I don't get that at all. So we go from the second beat is a quarter note, and it goes down to a 16th note. We end up with a rest. I'm not gonna try to, explain this variation. Some of these things we're just better off playing with and seeing what result we get and just approaching it that way. Let's try auto. I mean, I like the setting of right note eighth, because what that does is it just introduces a little variety. Instead of having 4 quarter notes, you have a dotted quarter note on the first beat, followed by an eighth, followed by a quarter and a quarter. And that's, that's something you see all the time, right? That kind of rhythm displacement. You have 4 quarter notes, and you just change the first two to a dotted eighth a dotted eighth and a 16th. I'm sorry, a dotted quarter and a 16th. So you have 2 quarter notes can be changed to a dotted quarter and a 16th. Okay? And no, what am I saying? 2 quarter notes can be changed to a dotted quarter and an eighth. That's what it is. A dotted quarter and an eighth. Yep. Let's hear that. That's nice. Yeah. I like that. I would keep that. It adds just enough variety to the first measure without complicating it too much. That's really fantastic. Yep. It's much better than the 4 quarters. Yeah, it's just that little bit of interest, that little bit makes a lot of difference. That's really nice. So, again, I think as we're kind of slogging through this thing together, you're watching me make these musical, making these changes and seeing how, if they make it an improvement or not. And I think that what's becoming apparent to me anyway is that the musical workflow of this module is really great. I mean, I can make these tweaks, and I get the result, and I can compare it, before and after, and that's kind of the workflow. You just go measure by measure, and see what works, and you really end up, you start out with some material, and you end up like improving that material. It just doesn't get better than that, to my mind. All right, so I think we made all the changes we want to make in bar 1. I'm thinking that the rhythm displacement's not going to work well in bars 2, 3, or 4 because I really like the rhythms we got there, and I don't feel like tweaking them. But for the purpose of experimentation, I mean, let's try it. So our most complex rhythm and bar is 4. So let's see if we do a rhythm displacement. Actually, we've already got one on there, so I don't want to mess with that because I like bar 4. Let's see. All right, let's do bar 3. No, I'm not going to like that. I think we'll move on from here. All right, so to recap, we've been through the 5 variations that appear under the variation icon, and I think we've gone through some, walked through these things in sufficient depth to really see what they do. I wouldn't say I have a complete grasp by any means of how these things are going to work. And I can't anticipate what they're going to do, but I've got I think what's more important here is to have a kind of sense of what these things can do from a musical standpoint. So now, this rhythm displacement, for instance, I can see, okay, if I've got, something kind of straight up, like especially quarter notes, and, I can make a little tweak there, and, that could be interesting. All right. Each one of these things has possibilities, that's for sure. So let's move on. Okay. I'll see you in the next video.